In today's session, we're going to discuss user types in Sage Intacct Construction software solution. These user types are helped and are needed to figure out your subscription and your licensing for the software. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through and show you some samples of 3 different user types, what they can and cannot do in the system, and hopefully this will help you determine what you need for your company. So what I'm going to do first is go in. I'm actually logged in as a what's called full business user type, and I have full administrative privileges. So the first user you have in the system, you'll define that administrator user who will help set up these user types for you. So if we go into where this is all located is in Intacct here, under company, admin, users. And you can see in here I have some different users, and you'll notice here I have the user IDs, and you can set these up however you want. And then user type. So this is the area that we're focused on here today, is what user types do you need? You can pick and choose license-wise what types of users you need, which will determine your pricing and things like that. So you want to try and figure this out ahead of time. So we're going to first go in and look at a user. So I'm going to go into myself here and click edit. So when you first initially set up a user, you're going to fill all the information, but you're going to get down to here, which is called the user type. And this is the key part in the system here, is you need to determine what type of user this person needs to be. You do have a nice little question mark here that will kind of give you an explanation of what this type of user can do in the system. Okay, and we'll go through this in more detail. So there really is 3 main user types to consider. There's business, employee, and project manager. The other ones are unique and are not discussed in this video, and chances are for your deployment, you will only need to decide on one of these 3 options. So one of the things to consider here is the user type does not determine where the user can go in the system. It only determines what functionality they can do. For example, you might have an owner that does not need to do any data entry whatsoever, especially accounting-wise. They just need to view information, but they want to view everything in the system everywhere. So in that scenario, they could actually just be an employee user type. And then with the roles and permissions, you can determine what access in what area that user can have. So for this case today, we're going to give everybody a role called administrator. This role is going to allow them to see information from every aspect of the system, from general ledger to accounts payable to payroll. They can see anything that they can get into. Okay, so you could set up an employee or project manager user type that doesn't need the functionality as far as what they need to do data entry wise, but needs access to everything or particular data in the system. On the other hand, you might have a business user and maybe someone in the accounting department who needs to be a full business user because they need to do counting data entry in the system. So for example, they need to enter accounts payable bills, or they need to enter, they need to print checks in the system. So they would need to be a business user type to do that. But with the role, you could limit their role to just seeing accounts payable data. You could actually secure out, they can't get into payroll, they can't get into projects, general ledger, but they can go into accounts payable and they can have access to that data, and then now they can do their data entry. So you use these in a combination. So what we're going to focus on today is the user type. We're going to assume every type of user here has the same role. It's all administrator. Everybody can see everything in the system. Okay. So this first user that we're going to click and go through is a business user. This is your full business user license. They should have access to do anything in the system and do any type of data entry that they want anywhere. So a business user, assuming they have full rights to the data, can, it'll look like this. They can go into General Ledger. You'll see they have these plus icons here, which means they can enter data. They can add new transactions, they can add new records, and they can edit records. So if I go and click on General Ledger accounts, they can see the General Ledger chart of accounts, but they can also edit one and change setup. They can add. Okay. Same thing for transactions. They can record journal entries. Accounts payable. They can enter a new bill. They can hit the plus button and they can enter a new bill. So the simple rule is anybody who's doing accounting type data entry is going to need to be a full business user. Okay. They're able to see all the reports in the system. They're able to see all the dashboards in the system. So we're going to use this dashboard as an example. Payroll workflow. Project performance, for example. Okay, so now I have access to that dashboard. I'm a full user. I can see project performance dashboard. Okay, so they're your full user license. So now what we'll do is let's log out. Actually, let me jump back over here and go back into company and go back into the users and show you the two other types that I've set up. I've set up one called employee user. I'm going to click edit. So the same type of information is set up at the top. In this case, though, I've checked them off as an employee user type. Okay. And I'm still going to assign them that administrator role. They're allowed to go anywhere in the system and see information. We're just going to limit what type of data entry they can do. Okay, so the employee user type is going to do that. And then the same thing for the project manager user type, which we'll log into as well. I set up a user for that. Okay, same setup. It's just now we're going to give them a user type of project manager. Same role, they're going to be able to go anywhere in the system. Doesn't have to be the same role, but we're going to do it today so you can see the differences. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to log out now. And I'm going to first log in as the employee user license. So that was BC employee. And I'm going to put my password in. And I'm going to log in as that employee user now. So system looks the same visually. You still have the user's still going to have the applications that they had before. Okay. They still have full access to dashboards because that's viewing information. And we'll jump back into that in a second. But let's take a look at accounts payable, for example. Accounts payable now, you'll notice here, the pluses are gone. They can't do any data entry. I can't enter a new bill. I can't print a check, okay? But what I can do is I can still view vendors. I can still view bills. I can do approvals, so I can approve a payment depending on what approvals you have turned on in the system. I can approve invoices. I can approve payments if I need to do that. I can run any report that I want in the system. I can run my full vendor agings, okay? I can see bills that have been already entered in the system. So if I click bills, I can still see my information. I can actually go into a document. I can actually go into this bill and take a look at the detail. Still have access to my collaboration function and talk with other users in the system. And drill down to the detail. See the posting detail for General Ledger. I just can't do data entry. Okay. So if I go back to accounts payable, you'll see that there. Under setup, I can't do setup. I can just look at lists. So I can't set up a vendor, but I can view a vendor. Now, there is some areas in the system that the employee user type can do data entry for. That is going to mainly be in the time and expense area. In time and expense, they do have the ability to enter in their own timesheet. So you'll notice here there's a plus here, so I can enter in my own timesheet. I have to be set up as an employee, which I'm not at this time, but let me go back to that there. So I can go back to time and expenses. I can enter my own time. I can enter my own expenses. I can approve expenses and approve timesheets of others. So if you're set up as a manager of particular employees, you will have the ability to approve others' timesheets and approve expenses, just not edit their time. And with the expenses, you do also have the ability to enter in expenses for other employees that are under you. So that's why there's a plus there for that. The only other data entry item that an employee user can do in the system, and it's kind of a nice little feature, is in projects, they do have the ability to start and enter in a change request. So maybe this is a field employee that you want to give the ability to start change requests in your system. Maybe they come in from the field, from subcontractors or from foremans on the field. They can come into here and log a new change request, or they can edit or view existing ones. But what they can't do is then turn that change request into a change order. That's where it would come into the system. And then we'll talk about the project manager user or a business user has the ability to do that. So they can enter in new change requests. But in addition to that, they have full access to reports. They have full access to dashboards. So if we go look at that same dashboard, project performance, you'll notice this employee user has the same ability to see that dashboard and drill down into it. So one of the things you can do with the dashboards is you can come into here and you can drill down in. So if we come down to here and drill down into the revenue, I'm an employee user. I can still get to transactional data and I can drill down into the actual invoice as well. And that's all with an employee user type. As you can see here, here's the invoice. Okay. So it's merely a matter of what can I do data entry wise in the system. And the employee user, if you need somebody who just needs to view information, do some approvals, run some dashboards, put their time in, drill down on some data, then the employee user type will work for that individual. And it's, like I said, biggest example is an owner type who just needs access to view information in the system. Okay, so let's go in now and let's log out as the employee user. And we're going to log back in now as the project manager. Okay, so let's log in as the BCPM user. And I'll type in PM here. I'll put in my password again. And we'll log in as that project manager user. So now, basically, the project manager user is a step up from the employee user type. So the project manager user type can do everything that you just saw the employee user can do. So we're not going to go through all of that again. It is the same exact items as the employee user, with some additional information that they can do data entry for. So with a project manager user type, the additional features you get is, yep, you guessed it, project related stuff. So for example, if I go into accounts payable, you'll notice I still don't have any plus information there. But the difference is if I go into projects area, I do have some plus icons. So the project manager user can set up projects, edit projects, set up and edit the cost codes that are related to the projects. And also, one of the other big things is put in project estimates or project budgets. Either add new ones or edit them or import them into the system. So they have access to do data entry for setting up the project information in the system. Okay, along those same lines, They can also enter in project contracts. So this would be if they're going to enter in their project contracts, their schedule value lines, how they're going to bill the project, they can also do that in the system as far as setup goes. As far as data entry and workflow goes, they can also enter in change requests just like the employee user could do. But in addition to that, they could then turn that change request or requests into project change orders and also assign that and attach that to the project contracts to update your contract so that you can bill the project. Okay. And with that being said, they also have the ability to do what's called a pre-bill report, which basically allows them to go in and generate your percents to bill for a particular contract and get that, typical AIA type project or actually a time and material type billing generated through projects that can be handed off to accounting. So you do have the ability to have your project managers go in there and put in their percents to bill or their amounts to bill for their projects. And then either set that up as you'll notice here, I can save the document as a draft. And then it basically can be picked up by the accounting or full business user from there. So they have that ability as well. So in addition to that, they can, under time and expense, do all the timesheet entry and everything you saw with the employee, but they can also enter time for their staff. That's the additional feature here. So if they are like a superintendent or responsible for a crew, they could come in and put in the timesheets for other employees in the system if need be. Okay. They could do all the approval like you saw with the employee as well. In addition to that, they can also do any data entry into particular what's called transaction definitions. So any non-posting transaction definition. So for example, what that means is if I go into purchasing, they can enter in purchase orders. They can enter in subcontract documents. They can't turn that subcontract document into an AP bill. That would be a business user access point. But they can enter in purchase orders, they can enter in subcontracts, they can edit them, they can send them out, and they can enter in change orders for those as well. So you'll notice, you can see the pluses that here's what they can do in the system. So they can do full purchase order entry. And if you have any, for example, an order entry, you can set up some unique transaction definitions. In this case, we set up a work order tracking, and that project manager has the ability to create work orders. But what you can't do is turn them into an accounting document. So they can't turn it into an accounts receivable invoice. They can't turn it into an accounts payable bill. That would have to be handed off. And a business user license will do that. And as far as dashboards and reports, same as the employee user, they have the ability to come into a dashboard, run that same project performance dashboard we did. And going back to the start of this session, as long as they have permissions on top of their type to do that, they'll have that ability. A lot of times people will want to set up permissions that allows them, just to see their projects and things like that, which can be set up in the dashboards. But a project manager user type still has the ability to come into here and take a look at costs, drill down, see the individual cost lines. So there's some vendor costs or subcontract invoice, drill down, see the detail and see that, get to the actual document of that AP bill, which is right here. Okay, so they can see that information. So that is a review of the different types of user types that can be, subscribed in your licensing, and hopefully this will help you get a better idea of what user types you will need and what functionality those users are going to be able to do with those user types. If there's any comments or questions, please put them down in the section here, and hopefully we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you and have a great day.